Dr. Omni is a Black Joy scholar. So her work is all about how do you cultivate Black joy. Dr. Omni, it is so much fun talking to you. I've come across some of your stuff where you talk about Kwanzaa. Can you please tell us which Kwanzaa values are really important for you and how they have influenced your work on Black Joy?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought this up because some people just celebrate Kwanzaa during the 7 days. I
Mhm.
live Kwanzaa. So it is something that is valuable to me as a person, valuable to me as a scholar. So while working on my dissertation, I decided to create what's called the Kujima theory of collective self motivation. So Kujima is a creative configuration of three Kwanzaa principles, starting with Kuji Chagalia, which means self-determination. So within this space, according to my theoretical framework, we have to be determined as an individual to want something, go after something, to know that there is that thing that we are moving towards, right? That we are doing this, but we have this internal drive. We know that the ancestors are there, but we have this internal drive. I was telling my husband yesterday that I'm thinking about how people were led out of enslavement and
Mhm.
how somebody, multiple somebody said, follow me,
Mhm.
follow me. I am determined to lead us to freedom. That self-determination is part one, which is Kuji Chagalia. I personally am determined to lead us into a space where it's no longer the deficit narrative. I'm determined to bring people along with me who believe in providing a counter narrative. I am working with research mentees and interns and people who are in their late teens and early 20s to show them that there's a different way to engage with scholarship, that there's not one size fits all. So I have that self-determination to show what's possible. The second principle is Kumba, which is creativity. I never considered myself an artist. That was not a title that I put on me. That was not part of my identity. I've always been a creative person. So I've leaned into that creative space, but working on this dissertation, I also decided, let me go ahead and don this title of artist because I'm doing more than just creativity. I'm creating an arts-based practice around walking and photography, and I'm bridging that with public health. And we all have a creative atmosphere to us. We all might not call ourselves artists, but as a parent, you got to be creative. As a significant other, you got to be creative. As an employer, as an employee, you got to be creative. And I think when we, not even I think, I firmly believe that when we tap into that creative nature, we see things in a whole different way. I see research in a whole different way. I see the methods, the methodology, the theory, the populations in a whole different way. That you can't just look at Black women and see the deficit narrative. And I say that over and over again, but you can't just see those statistics. You have to creatively see what is right. And what is right are those stories of joy that people have not yet pulled out in this public health space. The last principle is Ujima, collective work and responsibility. I can't just do it by myself. I can't just do it because I creatively come up with something. But the collective work expands beyond me, expands beyond Black women, expands beyond Black people. It expands out into the universe for a network of people who understand the importance of pulling upon joy as a new way to live, a new way to research, a way to look at social determinants of health through a lens of joy. That's not just going to be Black women. That's not just going to be Black people, but for the collective, that the whole, to see that as your responsibility, to see that as I'm going to do my part, self-determination. I'm going to do my part within my sphere to help change the narrative. That's where all three of these living principles come in for the work that I do and the life that I live.
Mm. Okay, so I love that. I love those three principles of Kujichagulia. First of all, what a fabulous word.
It's just, yes.
Yes, it's like a poem.
And there's like a whole beat to it. There's a whole beat.
Yeah, right. So this is all Kiswahili that these principles are named in, and then Ujima and Kuumba. And for me, there's no pleasure. Why are we doing it?
Why are we
You
doing it?
know, sometimes you got to clean up the mess, and you'd rather be sleeping or you'd rather be doing something else. Sometimes you do have to do that. But come on now. I think 80%, please. Can we be rooted in pleasure? Can we be rooted in this brings me joy? Even if
Yes.
20% of what I do every day is part of my responsibilities because it comes from my ethic of care.
Yes.
So,
And I'm glad you framed it like that, because cape break
mhm,
for Black women
mhm.
is not throwing the cape away. It's
Mm.
taking a break from that narrative so that you can focus on joy. And when you need to put that cape back on, because there are things that have to be done, put it on and come right back off and take a break.
This is what I feel either or thinking obscures to us. Either or thinking obscures like cape or no cape. And then you're like, no, cape break. You put it back on. Or, and so when you were talking about joy and pain, I really just want to highlight for everybody what we're talking about is coming from a whole place, coming from a wholeness. Like we are part of the collective. So, of course, we need care. And we see ourselves in the collective. So, of course, we want to care for others. So, I just really appreciate you. And I want you to share your good news that you got about your Black
Ah,
Joy work.
all right. Before I do it, can I get a little drum roll though?
Yes. Kuji
Thank.
Chagulia.
Hey, 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 Coochie Chagalia. Hey, 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 hey. Okay, we're gonna break this down. There it is. So the good news is I am working with a team of fabulous research mentees, and we all received the confirmation email that said unanimously the committee agreed to financially support and in-house support the publication of this first ever journal about Black joy.
Mm.
Now, when I say first ever, I really need to, that's why I said drum roll. I really need to emphasize that this is not just first ever in Florida State University history, which I was thinking that in FSU database, this is the only one. When I reached out to the director of FSU libraries and their digital humanities space, he said, no, this is out of 388,000 journals.
In the world.
Which, yes, out of 388,000 journals, there are none that are exclusively dedicated to Black joy. And what we're doing is bringing in creative writing and research in this same space so that it touches everybody, but it's the umbrella of joy.
Mm-hmm.
It is geared towards reframing the narrative and not always presenting our work through a trauma lens. It is our aim to, we'll say early 25, to publish our journal on Black joy.
Congratulations. Thank you
Thank you.
for breaking the space, for
Yes.
having the vision.
Thank you.
Yes.
Self-determination. There it is.
Self-determination. There it is. And
And it
for
was
the no, go
that
ahead.
Ujima, yeah, that collective work. It was
Yes.
all three of us that put that together.
And you said the vibe attracts your tribe.
Yes,
So you
accurate.
attracted a tribe, and you will with the journal. You will attract even more people with that vibe who want to
Yes.
support that. Dr. Omni is a Black Joy scholar. So her work is all about how do you cultivate Black joy? How has it been cultivated in the past? And what can we do to have more of it now? She's a health mobilizer. I love that description of yourself. She's an artist, and I can't wait to talk with her about sunsets and oceans and trees and all the good, good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm here for your magic and beauty to flow.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna send it your way, and then I'm gonna receive it from you as
Yes, let's reflect it, bounce it
yes.
back between each other, which is what we're doing anyway, right?
Indeed. Whenever you're in conversation, you are really sharing energy. You're
Mm-hmm.
exchanging a moment and a memory that is here and now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
Mm-hmm.
sitting in a place of gratitude. So yes, we're a mirror of one another in this space.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard of mirror neurons? That
No.
yeah, it's this idea that somehow we will implicitly or subtly start to mirror each other's energy when
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So
So I
you
guess I've never heard of it as mirror neurons,
mhm.
but your vibe attracts your tribe. That's the way I see that. But mirror neurons works for me too.
I love that your vibe attracts your tribe. If you're attracting people that aren't vibing with you, what does that mean?
Then that means it could be a teachable moment as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've already created this space of amplification around you and you have this ancestral protection, that negative energy is not going to come into your sphere. But if somebody is not there to match that vibe, they might be there to learn about that vibe because they're on a journey to elevate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, for me, that's what it means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. There's a lot there. I want to, and I really want to talk about joy. Speaking of the vibe. So, what have you found in your scholarship about Black joy?
Ooh,
I
thank
know that's
you.
a big question.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to always lead with the difference between happiness and joy. Because a lot of people ask, if you're researching Black joy, how is that different than happiness? Or how is Black joy different than regular joy? So I'll take it back to at least my definition. Happiness happens to you, joy happens within you. So it is very possible to hold both joy and pain in the same body at the same time. Whereas happiness is something that just comes in, and this, like a birthday celebration, could be a moment of happiness. But the joy that I feel about reaching this crown chakra age is going to carry with me forever. So for me, I like to differentiate between joy of that's that inner peace. And what I've learned about Black joy in my research is that it's a collective. For some people, joy is just an individualistic state, but Black joy is community. Black joy is collective. It is me witnessing my fellow queens and my brothers and their joy. And this is also in Buddhist practice, where empathetic joy is something that you feel by watching and witnessing somebody else's joy. And that's what I've discovered in my research. It's phenomenal and fascinating at the same time, because not only is it collective, it it supports in a twisted way the strong Black woman phenomena. My first research study was called Black Joy in Green Spaces, which we'll talk about here pretty soon. But in response to this collective state and collective ideology, the strong Black woman phenomena is really an ethics of care ideology, where we care for other people, sometimes at the expense of caring for our own selves. So while I was working on my dissertation, all of the participants were dealing with something in their own lives. One was in the middle of her own defense to become Dr. Jerry. Another one was finishing up her master's program, or the semester of her master's program. So she's in graduate school. And the other one was dealing with an immediate death in her family. So that strong Black woman, you have that cape on, and they decided to take care of me in that space, to be a part of my research. So it became this collective state of joy when we're there to uplift one another, even though we're carrying our own individual baggage and pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that what you said about you can carry joy and pain at the same time. It's, yeah. If you live long enough, that's true, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Uh-huh. And how do you like if you wake up, for example, and or it could happen at any point in any day. You could all of a sudden find yourself in a pity party. You could find yourself feeling resentful, all the feelings that we have. You could feel overwhelmed by reading the news. So how do you cultivate from the inside that joy?
That is a beautiful question as well. I lead with saying that when people say take one day at a time,
Hmm.
I challenge that and say take one moment at a time. Because just as you said, even within one day, you could cycle through emotions.
Yes.
I could be like in this super hype state with you right now, and then get off this Zoom call and then get a phone call, and it just changes my world.
Yeah.
And that really is the cycle of life. But what I come back to, which is to answer your question of how do you cultivate that joy, find those moments that have happened that you can hold on to and transport yourself back to. The easiest one for me is my mama.
Hmm.
That I watched my mama transition from a 26-year battle with cancer.
Mm.
So that was a painful moment, but I was able to hold on to that joyful state of my mama watched me take my first breath. She was the vessel that I came through with support of my dad, right?
Hmm.
So it was a painful moment, but I can transport myself back to day one of she watched that first breath.
Hmm.
So as you learn to cultivate, you learn to capture those moments in the past
Hmm.
that have been very joyful, that have changed the frequency of your life, and then just go back in time. Continue to go back until it feels like you're still living there in that moment.
Really? Okay. Really liking what you said. I'm thinking about when you said go back to, and you go back to your mother and you go back to that moment she gave you, she watched you take your first breath. And you clearly love your mother. And if I was to put a word on it, what I felt coming from you was gratitude for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that you use that word because my nephew messaged me probably about a month ago, and it's Auntie, how do you cultivate gratitude?
Mm.
So it becomes that question, how do you cultivate joy? How do you cultivate gratitude? It takes time.
Mm.
It takes time. I am a grower. I don't call myself a gardener. I am a grower. So I have a lot of rescue plants. I have a container garden. I have some vegetables and some fruit on the side of the house. So I grow with love. But as you cultivate these different spaces, you understand that growth does not happen overnight, that you have to nurture it day in, day out. And it doesn't mean that you have to water it frequently, like every single day, but just to acknowledge its presence and its beauty. I think that's the way we cultivate anything. If you're cultivating joy, if you're cultivating gratitude, if you're cultivating a relationship,
Hmm.
that's a place of nurturing.
Mm.
It takes time to build that.
Yes. And before we started the conversation, before we started the recording, I mentioned I saw a turtle on your cup. And then you proceeded to tell me what? How many turtles are in your space with you right now, or images of turtles?
Let me lead with the biggest turtle that stays with me all the time. So
Oh, Dr. Joy. Dr. Omni is showing us a magnificent turtle on her bicep.
I carry that turtle with me. And over on my right, I have one, two, three, four, five turtles. I have a couple of turtles over here. I love turtles because they are that constant reminder to go slow, that they will, and I've watched this happen. They will cross the street at their own time and reach their destination and just continue to go slow.
Mm.
So that's a reminder to me to slow down,
Mm.
that you'll reach your destination. Take your time and enjoy those individual steps. And I think that goes back to the cultivating piece. Take your time. Those individual steps will help you reach your destination.
And because you were talking about yourself as a grower, as it takes time, tend to it on a regular basis.
Mm,
That's why I brought up your turtles, because it seems like it's not instantaneous. And it's also, turtles are low to the ground,
mm.
Turtle
The con-
Island.
yes, the conversation of being grounded,
Hmm.
being close enough to let your feet touch the soil. And right now, when you did the opening with the breath work and you said feel your feet, I have and I couldn't make this up. If I could lift it up, I would show you. Let me see if I can get this. I have a cutting from a tree.
Ooh.
So I rest my feet on this tree and I ground myself in this space because I can't go outside for this interview, but I bring outside in. And,
Yes.
and just like what you said, turtles are that close to the ground and they get to feel the earth every single day.
And you know what? I was looking at some photos, and my dog, we used to have two. One of our dogs passed on, but he lived a very long time, and he was always laying belly down on the ground. He was always looking for some dirt. When we went outside, he was like, "Arr," and then he'd be lying all down, getting all in it.
Yes, we need that. We
Mm.
need to take that permission and that cue from your dog.
Hmm.
And I didn't know about your journey with your dog, and my condolences. I went through the same thing this year.
Mm.
We had three, now we have two, and they all love the sun and they all love to be that close, belly down.
Yes. Yes. And so I just want to shout out belly down. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling overwhelmed, go belly down.
Hmm. Hashtag that one. Hashtag belly down.
I want to come back to Black Joy, because you could have just done your thesis on joy or your
Mhm.
dissertation on joy, but you chose to do it on Black Joy. So tell me about that.
The reason is I was extremely tired of the deficit narrative.
Hmm.
Extremely tired. My background for 25 years is in public health.
Hmm.
I have a master's degree in public health. My thesis was on physical activity to improve the health and well-being of Black women, but it was physical activity to address the health disparities. And the health disparities I looked at were cancer, diabetes, and hypertension.
Hmm.
And I was even guilty of what I am so tired of now, of perpetuating that deficit narrative by constantly repeating what's wrong with Black people.
Hmm.
So for the show and for your audience, just so they can understand the heaviness of this, that Black women are 42% more likely to die from cancer. We are 60% more likely to be diabetic.
More likely
30
than who?
the comparison is always white women.
Okay.
They always compare Black and white.
Okay.
So that's another conversation in and of
Right.
itself.
Hmm.
But 42% more likely to die from cancer, 60% more likely to be diabetic, 30% more likely to die from stroke. Over 80% of us are overweight, 53% of us are obese. And when you continuously share these statistics,
Hmm.
it's heavy to hear as a Black woman or a public health professional as a whole, but it's even heavier to hold, to be a Black woman and to know these statistics are impacting my queens. But what they're not saying in this canon of research is that 100% of us still live with stories of joy. My mama, who was in that first statistic of 42% more likely to die from cancer, she still lived with joy. She even died with joy.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what people are not hearing in the research is, how can joy be a social determinant of health? So I wanted to change the narrative to focus on what is right with us,
Mm.
to conduct studies that run counter to any other public health study where they just continue to cite what's wrong.
Mhm.
There is a queen by the name of Dr. Angela Dunbar who said that it is time for us to have complete studies that are absent of pain. When I read her words, that was the download, that was the permission, that was the green light that says, go forward and do complete studies that are absent of pain.
Mm. So give me an example. What would be a complete study absent of pain?
Mm. So my last study was Black Joy and Green Spaces,
Mhm.
where specifically we explored nature's influence on the emotional impact of Black women, right? I had to sadly, I had to situate it in what was wrong. But then the majority of the research was, how is nature a healing space for us? How do we experience joy in nature? So the research methodology that I used involved, the methods were walking, photography, and a concept called photo elicitation interviewing, where all the participants could just go into nature and take pictures of things that brought them joy.
Okay, I love this.
So this is an arts-based research practice. And let me rewind, because people are familiar with quantitative research.
Mhm.
People are familiar with qualitative
Mhm.
research. Not everybody has heard of arts-based research. So this PhD in art education opened up a whole world of what's possible when we explore our research questions through an artistic lens.
Okay, so you have your PhD in arts education
Yes,
and your master's in public health.
yes.
Awesome combination. Beautiful combination.
It's a
Okay.
marriage. It's a marriage. See?
Your study, you allow Black women, you encourage them to go out, take pictures of what brings you joy. Is that like
Yes,
your, okay.
that was it.
Oh,
That
and
was
then
it.
what did you learn?
The hardest part is for me to tell them that they could take as many photos as they want, but for the sake of time, they can only select 5 to bring back into the interview space. So we were out in nature together, and I watched them as they were taking their pictures, which is also another level of care. And for IRB sake, it's about this ethics of protection. A lot of people don't stop to think about the historical trauma that Black people face or could possibly be re-triggered by going into these nature spaces and seeing the trees and seeing the moss hanging from the trees, to be transported to the conversations of lynching. And that happened in my study.
Mhm.
One of the participants stopped before she continued on into this trail and said, I can't.
Mhm.
I can't, because looking at that Spanish moss,
Mhm.
I see my ancestors.
Mm, mm, mm.
But she sat there. And for me, it's about holding space. So
Mhm.
you could sit there as long as you need to. If we
Mhm.
need to end this study right now, we end it.
Mhm.
But in holding space and allowing her to breathe, she turned and saw the water. And in my dissertation, and I created a web series around this, so you can see this all unfold in the web series. But she realized that it was the green spaces that also saved our ancestors, the places of hiding, the places of food and foraging, that it became something that gave her the inspiration to move forward in this space. So they're taking all these photos, and then they get to come back and we talk about the 5 most important photos. And what I learned, and it was an intergenerational study, But what I learned is that every single person at different times took pictures of water
And brought them back to you.
and brought them back to me. So I had one person take as few as 24 pictures. The other person took as many as 98. So only picking 5, the ones that they wanted to discuss focused on water. So that gave me a chance to dive deeper into, what does water mean to you? How does water represent joy in your life? It was healing for all of them. It was a state of flow. It was the ability to have birth and rebirth. And listening to all of them talk about the power of water was like inspiration for another study, because then you get an idea of not just Black joy in green spaces, but how about Black joy and blue bodies? How can water bring healing and joy and this new frequency to the conversation of public health? So I don't know if I answered that,
Oh
but
my God, I love that story. Okay.
I feel like I went on a tangent thinking
No,
about that.
it's so lovely. Let's be joyful. Let's go on joyful tangents. And I'm thinking about, so the study, the women came to you with their 5 pictures. They talked to you about what was important, what they loved about them, I assume. And did that increase their sense of joy? What was the impact of doing this project with you?
The impact is what encouraged this next study that I'm on right now.
Mm.
The impact was gratitude. The over
Say more.
the overall consistent impact from my 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, every participant shared that state of gratitude for the invitation to slow down.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't just gratitude to see the beautiful water or the trees, it was the invitation to slow down. They felt
Yes,
grateful.
yes,
Oh my
yes.
God. Why do you think that was the thing that was common for them all?
We're always doing something. We're always busy. My new study is called Cape Break: The Reverse Engineering of the Strong Black Woman Phenomena. But that is it. We are always taking care of other people. And I said in that opening that one person was dealing with a death in the family. One person was working on her own defense. The other person was finishing up her semester of graduate school. We're constantly doing something, but rarely receive the invitation to, as I say, let being be enough.
You are full of these sound bites. Okay. Let being be enough. Okay. I love
Yes.
it. And your vibe attracts your tribe. Okay. I'm tracking them.
They're all going to be on shirts, so they can buy the shirts next year.
Okay. And then you said the study you're doing now is called Cape Break, like the Superman cape. Take the
Yep,
cape off. Okay. All
exactly.
right. So the study about Black joy in green places, where you had these women experiencing photographs. Did you have them take photographs because that was a way for them to be in the space and have something to do? Why not just have them be in the space and just breathe in the space?
We did both.
Mhm.
We did both.
Mhm.
So the study started with a one-on-one conversation in the grass, where we sat
I
down
love your
and
research. I love this methodology.
thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. So we sat down and we got grounded, and the breeze was blowing, the trees were right there, the sun was shining on us, and they just had a moment to talk. And it was semi-structured in the interview space. What brings you joy? What does Black joy mean to you? Can you tell me like your earliest memory of being in green spaces? And then just flowing off of each one of those answers. Then we were able to walk into green space at Piney Z here in Tallahassee, Florida. And the reason for the picture taking is because it sounds corny, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. And a lot of times we hear let me walk in your shoes. But this gave you a chance to walk in their shoes and look through their lens. That's why I selected photography.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about being a professional photographer because girl, that's not my strength.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy taking pictures. I enjoy creating the web series,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not pure top-notch professional quality.
Mm-hmm.
But in the method of photo elicitation, interviewing, and just the method of photography, period, it's never about the professionalism.
Right.
It's about the moment. It is about the story you are trying to capture in the photo. And it makes you be present. It makes you observe. There was one of the participants who would walk there frequently, but to stop and take pictures, she had never, at this level, had never done. So
Right.
that the pictures in itself become another invitation.
To see and to slow down, to see what to see. Is that what I want to photograph? Yeah, I see it. It's just, it's getting more and more present.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I keep on going back to let being be enough.
Mm.
Can I just be here and feel this breeze? Can I be here and capture this moment of the butterfly? Can I be here and just see that water as it ripples back and forth towards me and away from me? We need more invitations like that.
Mm.
And my research provides those invitations for Black women.
Mm. Dr. Chris Omni, scholar of Black Joy.
Yes.
Wow. So thank you so much, Dr. Omni. If people want to know more about this project, the journal, if they want to stay in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get with you and to find more out?
Blacktivatejoy.create.fsu.edu. You're
I love it.
laughing.
I love it. Blacktivate. So for everybody who's what we're saying, Black activate. So Blacktivate joy. Oh,
Blacktivatejoy.create.fsu.edu. I am the Black Joy Scholar on Instagram. And they can also find me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn because I am currently on a speaking tour, and they could follow that journey on LinkedIn. And my name there is Chris Omni.
perfect. Perfect. Thank you for holding down and expanding joy in our consciousness. And I look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Indeed. Thank you so much for creating and holding the space and seeing the value in the conversation of Black Joy. I appreciate you.
All right, y'all. See you next time.